Hello everybody, my name is Gagey2122 and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time we found out that unfortunately our boy Kazuma had been murdered while we were stowing away on a liner to get to England. And this episode, we finally got out of the room and now we're going to go explore the outer area of the room and probably the room next to ours to see if we can find any new evidence to figure out who actually killed Kazuma. Because as it stands right now, I am the prime suspect. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so I guess for the time being, we're just going to examine the area in here, see what there is to see. This is another Russian man. I like his tan lines? Excuse me, but could I ask you something? You little stowaway murderer! That wasn't a good start, was it? Alright, let me try instead. Good day, Mr. Sailor. I'm so sorry to trouble you, but could I perhaps ask something of you? You little third-class lady's maid! Oh. We seem to have caught the sailor on a bad day, Susato-san. I am not sailor. My mother gave me name. I am senior crewman, Biff Stroganoff. Okay. Whew. Best thing is just to avoid eye contact, I think. First class cabin area. Mr. Stroganov, about this first class cabin area. Here we are in finest part of Bureau steamship for very important persons. What sort of very important persons? Government officials, kings and queens traveling in secret. Many important persons. That is why I am always guarding this place. Gosh, that's amazing. But somehow I let stupid stowaway inside. I want to pick you up and throw you in ocean, but Stroganov is not animal. Thank you? If I may, I was wondering, is the cabin next to Mr. Asogi's currently occupied? Ah! Chisato-san, did you understand that? It sounded like I think it's probably Russian for yes, or no. Genius. It is not permitted to visit other cabins without invitation. Well, sounds like there's somebody in the next door cabin at least. Yes, it's tantalizing. Could you tell us who's traveling in the cabin next to Mr. Asogi's? His name is Mr. Grimsby Roylott. He is very important Western gentleman. A Western gentleman. Do not think about it. He has nothing to do with murder of student boy. How can you be so sure about that? Mr. Roylott is authentic Western gentleman. Such a man would have no interest in lowly student from insignificant Far East Islands. That was harsh. Could you tell us when Mr. Roylott came aboard? That is not your business. Come to think of it, even though we've been at sea for 2 weeks now, and I've been in Kazuma's cabin the entire time, I've never once heard anything from the next door cabin, or even felt like there's anyone there. Well, presumably, since this gentleman is occupying one of the first class cabins, he must be rather important. Is that right? That is not your business. Fair enough. It's not. Are you on watch here all the time, Seaman Stroganov? Duh, all time. So criminals like you cannot come in, or get out. I wonder, could you tell us anything about last night at all? It is sad about student boy. Were you on watch last night as well? Of course. Did you notice anything at the time? Anything unusual? Hit, I assume. Editor Griffin, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure, Griffin. It's
Нет.
Susato-san, did you understand that? It was clearly a no. I saw nothing unusual. Nothing at all. And you didn't hear any strange noises or sense anything was wrong in some way? I said no! Sorry. Not so sure. I could have sworn that he wouldn't catch my eye for a moment there. This is enough. I cannot say more now. Oh. It is time for me to report to Captain. You must return to cabin. Yes. Alright. Bulkhead to second class area is staying locked at all times. You escape when the lobster whistles on top of the mountain. Or as English say, when pigs fly. Yes, I understand. I'm Japanese, so I shouldn't be able to get either of those terms, right? Good. Now we can investigate this area properly. Shall we? Definitely. Right. Let's take a look at the door. That's the way to the second class area of the ship. Is something wrong? I was thinking about making a run for it, just for a moment. Things aren't exactly going well for me. I might be wrong, but I imagine the moment you reach for the handle of the door, the burly seaman would surely shoot you dead. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Perhaps I went a little too far there. No, I started with my talk of running away. And there's no way I could run away while Kazuma's death remains a mystery anyway. Ship protocols? The book on top of the table there is really huge. There's a pen with it too. Yes, I'm sure that's the ship's log. Shall we have a little look through it? The writing's so neat and precise. Every detail about the voyage has been meticulously recorded. You wouldn't expect a rough and ready sailor to have such a beautiful handwriting. Anyway, look here. Last night's log is mostly blank. Presumably that means there was nothing to report. Okay. This is like a plan of the SS Buria. It shows each deck. Look. The Buria is a large-scale steamship with triple-skinned hull. What a marvel of engineering. Well, it's been playing on my mind for a while now, actually, but how is it that such a huge lump of metal doesn't just sink to the bottom of the ocean? Oh, that's really quite simple, Naruhodo-san. It is? Well, consider the Japanese archipelago. The islands of Japan? Yes, they're not metal, but they are enormous lumps of earth, many, many times larger than this ship. And they don't sink, do they? They've been floating happily on the sea since the gods created them. That's not exactly it, but good try. Well, I suppose so. I get what she's going for, but it's not quite it. This is it. This is the cabin next to ours. The one the ventilator connects to. Yes, the ventilator from which Kazuma-sama wrote that he saw a speckled band emerging. Maybe whoever's in the cabin can help solve that particular mystery. Let's ask. No answer. We're out of luck, it seems. There's no one in there to help with our inquiries. How annoying. What's that? What do you think this is? It's a very pleasing shape, isn't it? That's the emergency alarm. It's probably best not to touch it. Oh, An alarm. It says, press only in times of emergency. It looks as though it sets alarm bells ringing all over the ship and brings the vessel to a complete stop. Jeez. It's that easy? Oh. What are you doing, Naruto? You mustn't touch it! But this is an emergency situation. Just look at these handcuffs. You know full well that's not what the alarm's for. If you were to bring this vessel to a standstill for no good reason, you'd be in an even worse situation. Ha! I wish everything would just stop, the ship included. If you have to do something foolish, at least make it something that doesn't affect everyone else. Okay. What's that? It came from inside the cabin. Such a high-pitched scream. It must have been a woman. Stand aside. Oh, I'm about to break the door down. Mr. Sholmes. I shan't be stopped. When the fit is on me, I revel in kicking doors off their hinges. Please, wait, Mr. Sholmes. The door doesn't appear to be bolted. It doesn't? Then how the deuce can I dispatch this murder urge? What, pray, can I kick? Oh, it's muscular urge. I think we should go in. There's no time to think about the stress relief. Yeah, muscular urge and murder urge are two different things. That's totally my bad, guys. Oh! Who are you? I'm just assuming he's Russian. A Western gentleman? This man looks Russian to me. We heard a woman scream. A woman? Don't be absurd. As you can see, there's nobody but me in this cabin. True, this old man does appear to be the only person in here. But in that case, who just screamed? Get out! All of you! Now! Please excuse the intrusion, but you're Mr. Grimsby Roylott, I believe. Yes, that's me. And you are? I am the one and only, the actual Herlock Sholmes. You've heard of me, no doubt. No. I'm a great detective among great detectives. One who adorns the covers of popular magazines, no less. So I assure you, you may trust me completely. The man uses that magazine like a business card. A detective? I do not trust detectives. We distinctly heard a scream emanating from within these walls. But there wouldn't appear to be a lady concealing herself within the wardrobe at this time. So might I be so bold as to ask you to open that small traveling case? What? Don't be stupid. How could anyone fit in small trunk like that? Well, it's quite fashionable these days, is it not? Traveling inside one's trunk? Don't look at me. Oh my, did you see that, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the case just shook. Leave, now! Otherwise I'll call the steward. So this is Kazuma's neighbor, Mr. Grimsby Roylott. There's no doubt about it. This strange Russian man is hiding something. I couldn't agree more. Let's see if we can find some clues before that burly sailor returns. Converse? Mr. Roylott, we'd like to talk to you about something. No! Oh, I do not want to talk. Leave my cabin now. Ugh, this is going terribly. We're not getting anywhere here. I agree, but there may be someone else who can help. Perhaps that great detective could get somewhere with Mr. Roylott. Let's at least examine him. Do you have a moment, please, Mr. Sholmes? You need only address me as Sholmes. That's what I just did, isn't it? Well, Mr. Sholmes, what were you doing in there? Why, I was resting, of course. Resting? Indeed, I was contemplating our sea voyage from the confines of the wardrobe whilst waiting. Waiting for the inevitable time that you would need to call my great powers of detection into service. Oh, and it would seem that the hour is upon us now. The time has come. Am I mistaken? Well, no, actually. You're spot on. For once. Observe closely. Our Russian host in this cabin, Mr. Herlock, is clearly trying to hide something. And do you know what is most effective weapon to use against a Russian holding a secret? Why? The truth, of course. Though it should be pointed out that such methods are not exclusively for the Russians. Right. Can you imagine how the Russian will react when the secret he guards so closely is exposed? Would you like to witness it? Oh yes, please. Well then, what you are about to see may well astound you. For I am about to apply my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Could this man be a more hackneyed portrayal of a dubious Russian, I ask you? What? From time to time it occurs to me. Is the fellow dubious on account of his Russianness, or Russian on account of his dubiousness? I really don't think either of those things should be occurring to you, or anyone. That's right, and Mr. Sholmes. I know this man's beard and dark glasses are hard to ignore, especially on first meeting, but I once read, it is a capital mistake to theorize before you have all the evidence. It biases the judgment. Shh! I must have complete silence. What are you doing? Why are you bitter at my face like that? Ah, just as I thought. Yes, I have quite made up my mind now. There can be no other explanation that accommodates all the facts. Mr. Herlock, I have reached two incontrovertible conclusions.
It's incontrovertible.
What do you mean? Number one, your true identity is that of a villain. Using those shears, you are about to end the existence of something most dear. Are you not? Huh. And number two, the other conclusion I have drawn. You are, at this very moment no less, in the midst of committing a most grievous crime. Beneath that beard, your mouth quivers with nervous tension as you realize you have been discovered. Does it not? Ah! Oh, not Oda-san. I never imagined I would witness one of Mr. Sholmes' great deductions with my own eyes. That was a great deduction? Nothing can deceive Mr. Sholmes. In a single glance, he can deduce all there is to know about a person. What? What ineffable twaddle! Oh yes, I've read about it countless times in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. And now I've experienced the astonishing impact of his great deduction firsthand. This is like a dream come true. I can hardly believe it, but all the color has drained from Mr. Herlock's face. It looks like somehow both Mr. Sholmes' conclusions were right. How could you? How could I possibly know such things, you wish to say? Very well then. I shall elucidate. I shall explain how it was that I arrived at this pair of conclusions. So I do cordially invite you upon a journey of logical discovery. Let us board the train of reasoning. Put plainly, let us work through my deductions together. What the? The game is afoot. What is this? So, this dubious-looking Russian, Mr. Herlock, obviously what catches the eye in the first place, is the enormous pair of shears in your hand. Now we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. You are on the verge of using the shears to cut away the copious beard you sport. Now, moving on. The question then begs this. Why would you desire to rid yourself of this magnificent beard, Mr. Herlock? Once again, the answer is plain. We have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. Regard, if you will, this morning's newspaper, in particular, the fascinating front page article, which it would appear you have read also, Mr. Herlock. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals your true identity is the article about the revolutionary. In translation, the headline reads, Revolutionary Villain Bolshevik Flees Russia via Shanghai. As you cannot fail to observe, the subject of the article possesses an extremely copious beard. Having noted the article yourself, you decided to remove your incriminating facial hair before it gave you away. In short, your true identity is beyond doubt. You are the fearsome Russian revolutionary himself, Villain Bolshevik! Not that I've heard of you myself, you understand. Now, as for my second conclusion, you are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime? Over there. Oh yes, Mr. Herlock. Taken unawares, people have great propensity to let their eyes stray, you see. And I assure you, the eye speaks so much more eloquently and honestly than the mouth. The answer we seek lies where the furtive glance falls. I'm not familiar with that word. Entergriffin, put up the definition of furtive. Thank you. The proof of your crime sits before our very eyes. Yes, that traveling case. It is time, I think, that the case be opened and its contents laid bare. No, I refuse. What could you possibly be concealing inside, we ask? By my estimation, a young lady, perhaps, one slight enough to fit therein. No. Don't be absurd. And what, pray, would be the identity of this young lady in the traveling case? Dear me. We are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? Your careless coup d'etat betrays you. Once again, we need only follow your furtive glance to find the answer. Yes, the reason you refuse to open your traveling case can equally be found in the pages of this newspaper. Well, there is another, most simulating article. If we turn from Fleeting Revolutionary to the back page. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novak Ballet disappears from Shanghai. Such a headline can lead us to but one conclusion. Your crime is that of abduction. And according to the article, the young lady's name is Nikolina Pavlova. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this Russian enigma, Elemensky. But is any of that right? Susato-san, that wasn't one of the great deductions I've been hearing so much about, was it? Well, The stories are full of Mr. Sholmes' brilliant deductions, you know. But that did seem a little different somehow. Excuse me, Mr. Sholmes, could you come over here a moment? Pray, what can I do for you? It's about your deductions. Would you mind? Not at all. Go on. Well, to start with, there's a newspaper article. I think we had the same discussion before, but these two men look nothing like each other. Ah, yes, I recall our discussion earlier, and at the time I believe I told you that the man is a revolutionary, well able to revolutionize his own appearance. In fairness to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Rolla does look more like this man than you do. That's not the point. And another thing, the part about him abducting the ballerina, indeed, a truly startling revelation. At first glance, the case would appear too small to accommodate a young woman. Not just at first glance, it is too small, clearly. You'd be lucky to fit a 5-year-old in that case, even if you push really hard. I don't suppose the missing ballerina is a 5-year-old child, is she? Me, you don't know? No, the young lady is 15. No, I didn't know. How could I? Well, if she's 15, the 10 years worth of her would be poking out from the case. Some years ago, I read something pertinent, I believe. A troop of men consuming vinegar daily in order to promote a certain litheness in their bodies. Vinegar? For such a sour bunch, it would surely be simplicity itself to contort oneself into the confines of that small case. Oh dear, you might be thinking of contortionists in the circus, Mr. Sholmes. Ugh, this whole thing is turning into a circus. Mrs. Nadaho, though, something occurred to me about Mr. Sholmes' deductions just now. I think his powers of observation are, well, magical. His eyes cut into the heart of a matter almost instantly. It's just where he directs his attention and his logic that seems a little off. Your idea of a little, maybe a little of yourself, Miss Susato. It's just one or two key words in his deductions that seem to let him down. So I was wondering if we might perhaps tactfully switch them for alternatives. What do you think? Switch some key words in his deductions? Yes, but very tactfully. I feel sure if we could do that, we'd unlock the true genius of Mr. Sholmes' great deduction. Precisely the thought that was going through my own mind. This man is a lot of work. At times I wonder how anyone puts up with me. Ha 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 ha! It's not that funny. Ah, and you, my good fellow. Sorry. Take a moment to look at your wrists. My wrists? What? Ah! Where are your handcuffs? Huh? How did... I felt they may hinder your ability to follow me in our dance of deduction. I don't believe it. Mr. Sholmes, you are a marvel. And don't worry, I shall restore the shackles to your wrists when we are finished. You could not. I'm not worried. In fact, I'd rather stay like this. So, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Time for some course correction. So, the dubious-looking Russian Mr. Roylott, obviously, what catches the eye in the first place is the enormous pair of shears in your hand. Now we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. You are on the verge of using the shears to cut away the copious beard. I'm not sure. Would you really use shears like that to cut off a beard? I doubt that's something I'll ever have to worry about. It doesn't quite sit right with me, though. It doesn't seem to be sitting right with Mr. Roylott either. Which means, I suppose, the deduction is wrong. Let's try to switch a keyword here, Naruto-san, and see if it helps matters. Alright, but how? I think we should start by taking a long, hard look at Mr. Roylock. I wonder if it's really his beard that he intended to use those shears on. Exactly. If we do manage to find something that seems to fit the sense of Mr. Sholmes' deduction better, then what? Then I'll leave the rest in your capable hands, Naruto-san. Why am I the one to do something about this? Well, anyway, let's see if there's anything we could even use to switch around in that last sentence. What exactly is Mr. Roylock really going to use those enormous shears for? The catch. Well, I mean... it's nothing other than... Oh. Oh, there we go. There it is. It's golden locks. I think I realize what's going on. But I'll let you guys figure it out.
Yes.
Golden locks. You were on the verge of using the shears to cut away the golden locks you sport. Indeed. You have identified the precise detail I was intending to expose. Such lush, golden hair certainly does not befit an old man. You're not a man at all. You're a woman, and judging from the length and the sheen of your hair. One still very much in her youth. Oh no. If only I had managed to cut off my hair, no one would have suspected. The question then begged this: why would you desire to rid yourself of these magnificent locks? Once again, the answer is plain. You have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals your true identity is the article about the revolutionary. Well, that was a shock. I had no idea that the old man was really a young woman disguised, did you? What? What are you staring at me like that? Yes, it was a surprise, Naruto-san. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Sorry? You look like you're in your element as you dance around the room, deducting the facts of Mr. Sholmes. I'm just doing what we agreed. I'm not having fun or anything. This is strictly business. Yes, I understand. Say no more. Well, anyway, let's focus on the next part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction, shall we? The evidence that he picked out just doesn't fit the facts at all now. No, that's true, given that Mr. Roylock is actually a woman. Exactly. He, or rather she, can't possibly be this merciless revolutionary. I suppose it's because the deduction as a whole has taken a different direction now. Yes. Let's switch the evidence for something else. Something that fits the facts as we now understand them. For some reason, this woman needed to try to hide her true identity. I feel as though I've either read or heard about a young woman in a situation like that recently. Alright, I'll do my best. It is still, yeah, it's that. This is interesting. Have you found something relevant, Naruto-san? Well, no, I mean, it looks like it might be interesting. I can't read a single word, I'm afraid. No, nor can I. But look at this picture. Perhaps it's about a beautiful young Russian princess. Do you think? She's very pretty, isn't she? I suppose you enjoy articles like this, do you? I don't know. I can't make any sense of it. Ah, I'm glad you've noticed this article. Ah! Allow me to give you a short summary of its contents. I don't think I was supposed to do that. Whatever. Oh, thank you! Pops up everywhere, this Mr. Sholmes. It's about the disappearance of a young lady that night. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna skip all this. The ballet disappears from the Shanghai. During a performance in Shanghai, the famous dancer was reported missing. She is, of course, the talented young Nikolina Pavlova. Why are Russian names so hard to remember? It would appear the woman was in costume when she was found to be missing from her dressing room, wearing the diamond tiara you see pictured. which is worth some 20,000 rubles. Oh, how much is 20,000 rubles? I have no idea, but I'm quite sure. That must be an unbelievable sum of money. Son's eyes are shining like diamonds to themselves. The tiara is property of Novak Ballet. It would seem the director is beside herself with worry. Yes, I'm not surprised. The company is most anxious to recover both Miss Pavlova and the valuable tiara. They've requested international assistance at all ports, but stay to Great Britain. Could this be another case of Russian fleeing his or her country? It does seem to be the Russian thing to do. I'm not even going to identify that with a response, Mr. Naruto. Okay.
Yes!
The evidence that reveals your true identity is, of course, the article about the ballerina. That's right. You've hit the nail on the head. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novalik Ballet disappears from Shanghai. It would appear we are finally able to address you by your true name. Yes, because your true identity is that of the Novak Ballet prima ballerina. Miss Nikolina Pavlova. Ah! Oh, she's pretty. You're right. My real name is Nikolina Pavlova. But please, I beg you, don't tell anyone. Now, as for my second conclusion, you are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime, over there. Oh yes, Miss Pavlova. Taken unawares, people have a propensity to let their eyes stray, you see. And I assure you, the eye speaks so much more eloquently and honestly than the mouth. The answer we seek lies where the furtive glance falls. I'm never gonna get that word right. The proof of your crime sits before our very eyes. Yes, that traveling case. This woman is a ballerina, and she's right in front of our eyes. So clearly she can't be inside the traveling case as well. No, that's right. It seems she wasn't abducted at all. In which case, what is the crime this young woman is apparently committing? I can see I'm going to have to step in and fix the great detective's mistake again. You seem to look pleased, Naruto-san. Do you like the idea of another chance to dance around Mr. Sholmes? Stop it. Anyway, there must be something else that shows what this woman is up to.
Yes!
There's the tiara. You know that they're missing the tiara. The proof of your crime is surely this tiara. I believe this tiara is worn on stage by dancers in the Novak Ballet, is it not? Indeed, it would appear to be identical to the tiara pictured here in this newspaper article. And if the reporting is to be believed, it's an item worth 20,000 rubles. In summary, the crime you've committed is theft. Oh no! Yes, you've left your ballet troupe, unlawfully taking their precious tiara with you. I have no one, no family, no friends. I'm all alone, and I need the money. but I did not steal the tiara. It was a present from, how you'll say, an Earl of Prussia. It belongs to me. Oh yeah, Prussia exists in this time. This girl is only 15 years old. She's run away all by herself. She must have been extremely lonely. Alright, I will tell you everything. There is no point to hiding it now. Come, let us not be hasty. What? There remains one unsolved mystery about you. Mystery? What do you mean? You have staunchly refused to open this traveling case of yours in our presence. It is reasonable to conclude, therefore, that there exists some reason why you wished it to remain closed. Is that not so, Miss Pavlova? My dear girl, there's no sense of playing games with me. Nothing escapes my attention. Indeed, I have a very good idea of the contents of your case, even before I ever laid eyes on them. Dear me, we are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? Your careless cueto betrays you. Once again, we need only follow your furtive glance to find the answer. I'm really starting to hate that word. It better have a good definition, Editor Griffin.
The jury is out on that one.
Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the books on the... What? He's completely changed tack with his deduction now. I think Mr. Sholmes is adapting his logic to the changing circumstances, don't you? Maybe. But why has he suddenly brought the bookshelf into all this? It's just a wild guess, surely. Oh, do you think so? Well, it doesn't seem likely that the reason why this young woman doesn't want to open her case would have been written in a book that doesn't even belong to her. Yes, that's true. But still. Svadlova certainly did cast her eyes in that direction. I noticed it myself. Then there has to be another reason why she won't open her case. And it must be somewhere in the same area if that's what her gaze is involuntarily drawn. I agree. That's the only answer. Whatever she has hidden inside that case should be revealed by following her gaze in the direction of the bookcase.
Yes!
No, that's not it. Oh, there is a limited number of times I can screw up. Great! Metal door has a capital metal latch, and the latch rhymes with catch. Catching on yet? You see, just as the door had a metal latch, your traveling case has a metal catch. Precisely your intention with that, Mr. Naruhodo. Just following the natural progression of deduction. Sometimes the truth hurts. Well, the truth is, you do not have a turn for observation or deduction. Did that hurt? Yes, a lot. So I guess it's the rules of passage then. I really do understand now. It is the rules of passage because no pets are allowed. So she probably has a pet inside the case.
Yes!
There we go. Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Inside that case of yours is something forbidden from carriage on this vessel. That is the real reason why you refuse to open it, thus revealing its contents. As we've seen, the trunk wobbles from time to time, but no weapon or other dangerous item would move of its own accord. Which leaves but one possibility, Miss Pavlova, inside your traveling case. Is the last item listed in the Forbidden Vessel Rules of Passage, a pet. So clearly, you are who you said you were. No, I'm not Grinsby Roylott. My real name is Nikolina Pavlova. Everything you said was correct. You absconded during one of your ballet company's performances in order to escape your homeland. Later that same night, you stole aboard this vessel. Which couldn't have been easy. Bury is a huge steamship with a vast crew. Could she really have snuck on board without being noticed? In order to obscure your true identity, you somewhat recklessly took the guise of an old gentleman. And you intended to sever all links with your past by severing your long hair. Yet to a woman, hair is no trifling matter. My personal recommendation is to leave well alone. So, it was just you about to cut off your own hair. Who was it that let out the scream when we heard from outside the cabin? That verbal tinkling of a bell? Why, none other than this young lady, naturally. More like a full set of pipes, if you ask me. I was so scared when I ran away in Shanghai. I was sure they would come looking for me. That's why I decided to, how do you say, disguise myself? So no one would recognize me. As a result, you transformed yourself in that questionable old man, I see. I put on the fur hat and fake beard. Then, just before you came in here, I saw in the newspaper, right on the page, there was a picture of me. I was so frightened, I couldn't stop from screaming. I knew that if I didn't change my appearance completely, they would find me. So I decided to cut all my hair as fastly as possible. I picked up scissors in my hand and... At that precise moment, we walked in through the annoyingly unlocked cabin door. Things happen like that sometimes, don't they? Things do indeed happen like that, from time to time. Are those two even talking about the same thing? There's just one more thing I'd like to know. What exactly do you have inside your traveling case? You were right. It is my dear friend inside. My only friend in this whole world. Please, don't tell anyone. If the captain finds out, if you'll say to any of the crew. Your secret is safe with us, I assure you. But in return, you must tell us, in as much detail as you can muster, about the events of last night. Yes, alright, I will tell you. Well, Mr. Naruhodo? Wasn't it something? Mr. Sholmes' great deduction? It was certainly something, yes. I'm just not entirely sure what. But at least Miss Pavlova has agreed to tell us what she knows. That's incredible. Indeed, it is incredible. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, yes? What? Observe your wrists. Oh, man, come on. Ah! Your hands are cuffed again. What? But how? True to my word, I've restored your shackles. When and why? There is still a shadow of guilt cast over you, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry to say, it can't be helped at the moment. Ha! Can't it? Really? Anyway, let's listen to what Miss Pavlova has to say. I can't go on not knowing. I have to find out what the speckled band that Kazuma-sama wrote about in his diary really was. Nope, I didn't want... I wanted to converse with her. Did you know that someone was killed in the cabin next door to this one last night? One of the crewmen told me this morning when I was eating breakfast. The man who died, he was a friend of mine. Oh, That's why we're trying to find out what happened. Did you notice anything unusual about last night? Perhaps you heard a strange noise, for example? Perhaps people talking? Perhaps the ship was absorbed in a wild tempest? Perhaps its steam engine exploded? No. Perhaps everyone on board would have noticed if that had happened? Miss Padlova, is there anything you can tell us? I don't know. I'm sorry, but all I could think about last night was what I had done and whether they would find me. I didn't notice anything that was happening around me. Oh, I see. Running away? You've run away from your ballet company, haven't you? The Novavik Ballet? Yes. I am traveling to Great Britain, and from there I want to go to America. I will never dance again. I want to forget everything about the ballet. I will start a new life. You wish to forget? A challenging proposition. When you have that striking tiara as a reminder. The tiara is mine! I need it to live! I have no money of my own. The Novavik Ballet gives us only a little food and water, and we must dance all over the world. I had to run away. I had no choice. If I stayed, it would have killed me. So you ran away to protect yourself? Yes, and the crew of the ship. They've been kind to me. They let me come on board, and they said I could hide in this cabin. If that is indeed the truth, Miss Padlova, it creates a most intriguing conundrum. Yes, it does. What do you think about it, Miss Naruhodo? Me? Oh, well, yes. Of course. I think we should hear Miss Padlova's explanation. To what conundrum, I'm not sure, but... Miss Padlova, allow me to pose you a riddle. According to this newspaper, it was only yesterday that you absconded from the ballet. Now, that being the case, it must have been last night that you boarded this vessel. However, the Esperia stopped by in no port last night. Ah, that's it, of course! So how is it, pray, that you've come to be aboard? Now that I think about it, the crewman outside the cabin acted very strangely when we mentioned that. It was just after we asked him about when the occupant of this cabin came aboard. That is not your business. Yes, you're right. He did seem to be hiding something. An angel descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to the stage. Sorry, what was that? It is how the Russian newspapers described one of my performances. And that is how I came here too. I descended from the heavens, because I am an angel. Considering English isn't your mother tongue, your description is very vivid. Mr. Sholmes once said, I can never resist the touch of a dramatic. It seems Miss Padlova is the same. A genius descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to detection. Words once said about myself. You. A quote from a wonderfully extravagant advertisement for the Avenger of Herlock Sholmes, in fact. Yes, Mr. Showy. Anyway, it doesn't look like Miss Padlova is going to tell us what really happened. So the friend you mentioned is inside your traveling case, is that right? I don't think animals are allowed on board according to the rules of passage. Oh please, don't tell any of the crew. They found my precious. Then the burly Russians would bestir themselves in unison to throw you and your case overboard, no doubt. Ah! So reassuring, Mr. Sholmes. What sort of pet is your friend? A little puppy? It is, isn't it? Maybe an adorable little rabbit? Ha! You credit Russia as a land with small rabbits, do you? Oh, don't they have small rabbits there then? You may well ask. I have no idea! You two are miserable bunglers when it comes to understanding the nature of young Ballerina's friends. So are you. Seriously, come on, man. Isn't it obvious? It must be a chicken. Of course, it's a big ol' Russian chicken. Really? Consider the benefits. A rousing wake-up call, daily fresh eggs, and when adversity strikes, could satisfy the needs of sustenance. So you'd eat your friends. I'll remember that. Well, it would appear this friend's identity is closely guarded secret to not to be revealed. Ha 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 ha! She obviously doesn't quite trust us yet. There's something I'd like to show her, I think. Maybe she might be able to shed some light on it. There's something I have to present to her. This is a diary of my friend who passed away. His diary? Yes, and he wrote in it last night before he died. Something a little unusual. It reads, 1:23 a.m., I can hear a faint whistling sound. And then a few minutes later, 1:35 a.m., what looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? I don't understand. It's strange, isn't it? But the ventilator he mentions joins this cabin, you see. It's up there on the wall. In other words, this cabin and the victim's cabin are connected together. Oh! Miss Padlova? Has something occurred to you? Does the speckled band the victim mentioned mean something to you? Or the whistling sound, perhaps? No. I don't know anything. Oh. Excuse me, Mr. Herlock. Whoa, yes? What? Wow, she's fast. Captain would like to speak with you. You must come to Captain's quarters at once, please. Alright, I will come now. What? You must leave, now. Oh no, it's fine. Don't mind us. Yes, please don't worry about yourself, Miss Herlock. Get out! Passenger said out, or you want me to throw you out. Ugh. Looks like we'll have to leave investigating this cabin until later. What a pity. And so we lost our chance. Having still not managed to investigate Miss Padlova's cabin, we were unceremoniously chased out. That is to say, we were quite literally picked up and thrown into the passageway outside. Alright guys, I think that's a good enough stopping point. We were able to investigate the hallway, get a couple pieces of evidence, and also we had the opportunity to meet the individual inside the second cabin and get to know her story. I feel like I kind of get what's in there, but we'll save that for next time on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. See you guys then.